Let's get some analysis of the US presidential campaign now, focusing in particular on the issue of immigration. We can cross live to Scott Lucas, who's a professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham and associate of the Clinton Institute, rather. Thank you very much for speaking to France 24. I wanted to start with this rally in New York this Sunday. I mean, the city is kind of a symbol of immigration in the US, where immigrants can go and pursue the American dream. But the city has seen an influx in migrants over the past few years, in part due to southern states busing them up to the city. Is immigration starting to become an issue for voters there?
Oh, I mean, immigration has been an issue in the United States for decades, and it continues to be so this year. The question here is whether you get facts or disinformation, spectacle about immigration. Let me give you two, for example, that I think are important. The first is that in 2024, the number of undocumented immigrants crossing the US-Mexico border has dropped by 77%. That's 77%. The second is that the most significant border security measure in recent U.S. history, which was proposed in January, was on the point of passing Congress with Democrat and Republican support. The person who stopped that border security measure was Donald Trump. I think those are two important facts, but how often will you hear those facts in the U.S. media as opposed to, let's say, the disinformation that immigrants are eating cats and dogs or that terrorists are crossing the border? And that's really the battle, I think, between reality and myth that Americans face as they try to vote in just over a week.
Well, Trump has promised to conduct the largest deportation operation in American history. Is that actually realistic?
It doesn't matter if it's realistic. And I think, there will be serious legal problems when you attempt to deport not only illegal, but possibly legal immigrants. And when you say we're going to mobilize the federal government's resources to take away not thousands, tens of thousands, but millions of them. But it doesn't matter whether or not it's realistic. It is the fact that the media latches on to this Trump sweeping claim to try to highlight the fact that somehow this is a pressing problem which might require mass deportation, when in fact the reality is much more complex and less divisive than Trump tries to portray.
Some key demographics that both candidates have been trying to win over are Black and Hispanic communities. How does the immigration, in particular Trump's immigration rhetoric, resonate with them?
Well, I think it's significant that you don't treat the Black and Hispanic communities as being an overall whole, that they all think the same way about immigration. There will be some people in those communities who believe in supporting immigrants, who believe in supporting refugees, supporting asylum seekers. There are others who think that we need to focus on border security rather than those migrants. I think what we have this year is that in a toss-up race, Trump is trying to increase his support amongst Black men, whereas Black women overwhelmingly support Harris. And then in the Hispanic community, you have people who have backgrounds from Cuba and Venezuela, say in the state of Florida, who tend to support Trump, but others from Mexico and Central America, keep an eye on them in the swing states of Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia, may support Harris.
Well, on Saturday, Trump met with Arab Americans and some Muslim community leaders, a group that's criticized how the Biden administration has handled the war in Gaza. Are we seeing a shift in loyalty here, remembering that during his first month as president, Trump issued an executive order banning entry for 90 days by citizens from 7 Muslim-majority countries?
Well, I think it's important to highlight, as you do, that in terms of Trump's policies, not only has he penalized Muslims and Muslim countries, Trump has said in the past few days that he, in fact, will be a diehard supporter of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and criticize the Biden administration for being too weak in supporting Netanyahu. In other words, he'll support those wars on Gaza and Lebanon. But you are right that some Arab Americans, we have evidence, are disenchanted with the Biden administration because they have not tried to limit the Israeli wars in Gaza and Lebanon enough. And so we're talking, as far as we can tell, that the Arab American vote, there will be less that turn out for the Democrats this year. They may not vote for Trump, but if some of them stay at home, it could be decisive in a swing state like Michigan and thus in the U.S. election overall.
We've heard that some of these Arab American voters are saying that they're going to vote for the Greens. How significant is this for the Democratic camp? What kind of a percentage of people are going to turn away from them to vote for the Greens?
I mean, it is possible they could vote for the Greens who are on the ballot in Michigan, but I think the real question here is not if they vote for the Greens, it's whether they just decide not to vote at all. In 2016, the Democrats lost the election literally because they did not turn out their vote in Michigan, especially around the Detroit and Dearborn areas. In 2020, they won Michigan because they did turn out their vote. In 2024, will they fail to turn out Arab Americans in enough numbers if this race is decided by only tens of thousands of votes?
All right. Scott Lucas, thank you very much for your analysis. As a reminder to our viewers, you're a professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham. Thank you.
Thank you.